Konnichiwa minasan, this is Misimu Orahara. In this video guys, we are gonna talk about what if Bleach had another ending or a parallel ending. Call it whatever you want. The main point is a different ending from the one we have seen in the chapters 685 and 686. Kobo mentioned in those chapters that it was the perfect end. And yes, it was the perfect ending for the Soul Society and especially for Ichigo. He beated Yhwach and saved the Soul Society, and like Naruto, he married a beautiful sexy girl and he had a child. In one word, it was truly a perfect ending for Ichigo. But what if it didn't end like that? What if Ichigo had a different ending? Hold on. Was there another ending for Ichigo or a possibility for another ending for Bleach? Yes, there was another ending for Ichigo that could happen. I don't think if I can call it a dark ending for Ichigo, but let's say it's not like the current one. This one, it's like the final result of the uniqueness of Ichigo's power, where he would be the Soul King. And a big PS guys, I'm not talking about a theory, but a fact or a possibility. The possibility that Ichigo could be the Soul King. And this fact had a small signs in the final arc, and in the novel it was explicitly declared by some characters that there was a possibility for Ichigo to be the next Soul King. How? To answer this question, let's start from the small signs in the final arc, alongside with what we have in the novels. After the first invasion of Yhwach, when he killed Yamaji and made the Soul Society totally destructive, a lot of unusual things started to happen, like the appearance of the Zero Squad and taking Ichigo to the Soul Palace. At that time, some masterminds of the Soul Society, like Kurosaki and Ichigo, started to think about how they gonna deal with the scenario of Yhwach succeed to kill the Soul King. Who's gonna be the next one then? Because as we used to know, the Soul King, the keystone of the three worlds. Without a Soul King, all these three worlds are gonna fall down, and in front of this horrible possibility they had to think about a plan B. The plan A was to stop Yhwach from killing the Soul King, and the plan B, if he managed to kill the Soul King, then we have from now to start looking for another person who can replace the Soul King. And it was clear that Ichigo Kurosaki was certainly the first person on the list, and for many reasons. I will talk about them later. In chapter 545 and 546, Kurosaki came to the real world and met with Ichigo's friends, telling them that Ichigo may not be able to come back again to the real world. At that time, and through the words of Kurosaki, I thought maybe Ichigo couldn't come back to the real world because his power / Ryatsu will be very powerful, so he can't live anymore a normal life with humans. But the real reason, as I said, was another thing. Kurosaki with Ichigo were planning to make Ichigo the Soul King as a plan B. And that was mentioned in the first chapters of the novel when Ichigo and Kurosaki met in the Soul Palace after the end of the battle between Ichigo and Yhwach. Kurosaki said, that's why in the worst case scenario it would have been Ichigo-kun that is being sold under that name. And also in this paragraph we can see the reference to the scenes of the chapter 545 and 546. And for the ones who still don't know, the remnants of Yhwach's power is the thing that became the replacement of the Soul King after the end of the battle between Yhwach and Ichigo. I don't know how they managed to do that, but as a result of that they were able to avoid Ichigo becoming the Soul King replacement, and Ichigo talked about this point saying this. And what I understand from this is because the remains of Yhwach contained the power of the Soul King that Yhwach absorbed when he killed the Soul King, these remains worked like if the Soul King still exists after the end of the battle. In other words, if Kurosaki Ichigo managed to defeat Yhwach completely without any trace or power left from Yhwach, in that case, there won't be any other solution but to use Kurosaki Ichigo as a Soul King to prevent the destruction of the Bleach universe. And that's why I think Bleach would have a bittersweet ending in which Ichigo would have ended as a winner, but he will have to be locked inside that crystal forever. And I think maybe Kobo was going to do that, even though he said in his last interviews that he wanted from the beginning to draw Ichigo with Orihime and Renji with Rukia. But when I read for the first time the chapter 547 that came after Kobo's break, I stopped at this sentence, chapter of farewell, and with what was said in the previous two chapters, back then I had a feeling that maybe Ichigo wouldn't come back to the real world, but I didn't think he could be the Soul King. All I thought he will stuck in the Soul Society and marry Rukia. I'm just joking, guys. But regardless of what was the end of the story that Kobo wanted to draw, the idea of Ichigo could be the Soul King was a possibility. Then why Ichigo and not someone else? In the novel, Ichibi said that Ichigo had all the qualities that made him fit to replace the Soul King, and one of them, he is a descendant of the Ichiba's family. If you remember in the video that I made about the Soul King story, the Shiba ancestor did a rebel against the Tsunayashiro ancestor for sealing the Soul King by force, and he even tried to find a way to sacrifice himself instead of the Soul King, but he failed. So it's like the Shiba family had this portability in their bloodline to sacrifice by themselves for the others. The ancestor of the Shiba family wanted to be the Soul King for the others, and Isshin Shiba sacrificed by his Shinigami's power to save Masaki. And beyond that, Ichigo has almost the same composition of the Soul King in terms of powers. The Soul King, when he appeared for the first time, he was analyzing the hollow from the existence, and this is the same power of the Quincy, and Ichigo has this power. And also the novels talked about that the Fullbrings seem to possess fragments of the Soul King, which is the source of their Fullbring powers. And also Ichigo has this power too, and he is a Shinigami. So as I said before, the final result of Ichigo's power makes him really someone who could be a Soul King, except the deal of the almighty power. I don't know if he really would need this power to completely be a Soul King, because the dead Soul King used this power as a keystone to create the three worlds. And also I'm sure that they are not gonna turn Ichigo in two parts like what they did with the dead Soul King. There isn't anything that say to be a Soul King we must to cut you in two parts. What happened with the dead Soul King was because of the noble family's ancestor had a fear from him. But in the case of Ichigo, he is already have a great relationship with Kuchiki Byakuya, who is the leader of his family, and also he is a friend of Yurichi Shohin. So he will just be locked into the crystal with his full body. With that being said, which end do you prefer, guys? The current one or this end about Ichigo being the Soul King? For me, I'm fine with both. The current one or the one where Ichigo could be the Soul King. But the sad is the path to the ending was really bad. It doesn't matter if Kobo was sick or the Shonen Jump was forcing him to end the manga, but the truth remains true, whatever the excuses. The end of Bleach wasn't good. I really wished if Kobo took a long break or they let him to be in the same position of Togashi and Miura. This mangaka have chronic diseases, but with the way of drawing a few chapters each year, they can at least stay with the story until the end. And Kobo was already in the final arc, so he should have been given this opportunity until he completed the manga the way he truly wanted. But the only hope that's still available for us, in my opinion, is the anime. The anime can fix anything and everything. Even these novels can be animated, but how and when we still don't know. So thank you guys for watching and see you in my next video.